Hello and welcome to another MovieBoozer.com virtual pubcast. I'm your host, Ken Ekman, and I'm joined by Hawk Ripjaw and Bill Arsenault today.
Hi.
Hey.
And we've got one brand new release and one sort of new release to discuss this week, as well as a few other streaming suggestions for those who might be out in the market for them. First off, we're going to lead with the brand new movie, The Mummy.
Yep.
So did The Mummy make you its daddy?
Did it what?
This is the biopic for Eddie Mooney, right?
Yeah.
You guys are terrible.
No, it's the biopic for Paul Mooney.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I would see that. Yeah, The Mummy, starring Paul Mooney.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
what do you think of The Mummy?
Yeah, what did you think of The Mummy?
It's not good, but it is really, really fun. That's the biggest thing I can say about it.
Okay. So I know when we were talking, you were saying that this movie you would actually recommend people to watch because you thought it was hilariously funny.
Yes.
Do you have any explanation as to how this is differing from recent movies that have been not hilariously fun to watch? What makes this entertainingly bad?
It's just dumb. Okay, so this is the first in a extended universe of films. Universal wants their cinematic universe as well. So to facilitate that, they are digging into their old 30s monster movies and creating one interconnected cinematic universe with all their monsters, and this is the one that kickstarts it.
Okay.
And this is going to be wild right from the very beginning, because before the film rolls, you have the Universal logo where, the words come around the globe and show Universal. And then the globe gets dark and sandy. And I was like, oh my God, please let this be the thing that I think it's about to be. And sure enough, another set of letters comes around from the other side of the globe, and it just says Dark Universe. It's got its own logo.
Did you say Dork Universe?
Dark Universe.
The Dork Universe.
It is.
This is the Revenge of the Nerds. It's the Revenge of the Nerds
cinematic universe.
Fucking continuity. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
the Dork Crystal.
That sounds like something that could actually happen. Yeah. So this stars Tom Cruise as a guy named Nick, and Jake Johnson as his friend Chris. They are soldiers of fortune in Iraq. They are, kind of like Nathan Drake from Uncharted, finding artifacts and selling them on the black market and whatnot. They accidentally reveal a tomb in the middle of a village overrun by insurgents. And when they call somebody over to that tomb, one of Cruise's former lovers, who hates him because he's the roguish action hero type, they kind of have some expository dialogue for a while, explaining that this tomb is not really... The Egyptians, when they bury somebody and they mummify them and whatnot, they do a certain process when they do it to help facilitate this person's journey to the afterlife. So their organs are put in separate jars for each god, and they're given a coin to ferry them across the river Styx and everything like that. It's all about getting them to the afterlife. The observation by the archaeologists in this movie is that this facility was designed to contain whoever was in there. There were none of those measures in place to help ferry them to the afterlife.
Stereotype.
It's what?
In any of these mummy movies, it's the oldest stereotype in the book is, it wasn't built it wasn't built it wasn't built to keep people out, it was built to keep him in. Yeah,
exactly. So this mummy is Amenet, who's played by Sofia Boutella. 5,000 years ago in ancient Egypt, she was next in line for the throne, and then a baby boy was born, which was going to supersede her position. So she killed the baby and most of her family, as they are wont to do. And then she is captured and mummified alive and buried in this tomb. So I'm just going to go straight ahead and explain this mummy's Amenet's plan, because it is so wacky. That's part of why I ate it up so much.
Okay.
Is her plot? Okay, so Tom Cruise apparently is the reincarnation of Amunet's lover from Egypt. Her plot is to stab him with a magic dagger. Part of the dagger was buried with her, I think, and part of it was buried with a Crusades knight in England to keep the pieces separate so she wouldn't be able to use it. That she wants to reunite the pieces of the dagger and stab Tom Cruise in the stomach, where he'll be possessed by the god of Set, possessed by Set, the god of death. He'll become Set and have power over life and death, and will rule the world with Amunet.
Okay. And so, how did the knife get buried with a knight when the Egyptian royal era took place long before knights were, a thing?
You know what? I can't remember.
Did they have an explanation?
I don't.
Do you remember them even attempting? Is my question.
Well, the movie opens with the knight being buried in ancient England, with the jewel that goes on the dagger. But I honestly, now that you say that, I'm at a loss to remember how they explain where they are.
Because there's a gap of about 1,000 years there. That's
right.
What I'm saying.
Not to mention they buried it in Iraq, which is not Egypt. But they do kind of explain that. I think.
What about Set? Well, does he look like Gerard Butler?
No, unfortunately not. Set himself is never revealed.
Okay.
Save that for the sequel.
You know what? It's interesting you should say. Excuse me. You should say that because if you guys are down for spoilers, I can spoil what happens towards the end of this movie.
Yeah, feel free.
Sure.
I'm currently laid up. I cannot go to the movies, so I don't even give a fuck.
So at the end, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Basically, there's a lot of world building done in this movie, and it's kind of hilarious and kind of maddening because nothing in this movie works for itself. It's all in service of the rest of the franchise. Mm-hmm. Everything is building the pieces for the next movie instead of being its own self-contained piece that can develop its characters and make them interesting enough to want to see them in a new movie.
So they keep introducing shit and saying, yeah, but we'll get to that later.
Okay, so check it out. There is a facility that is responsible for finding, harnessing, and destroying evil in all of its forms across the world. It's kind of like the Avengers Tower. It's just like a hub for them to study things, and it's where all the monsters are probably going to meet if they ever team up, which I'm guessing is kind of what they're going for.
This is basically Hellboy, then.
Kind of, yeah. This facility is run by Russell Crowe, who plays Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah.
So Dr. Jekyll is ostensibly the Nick Fury of this dark universe.
So this is Hellboy crossed with the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, it's crossed with a lot of things. One of the best parts of the movie is, Dr. Jekyll constantly has to be injecting himself with the serum so he doesn't turn into Mr. Hyde. At one point, Cruise gets into an argument with Dr. Jekyll, and so he withholds his serum, and then everybody runs out of the room, and everything seals up, and then Dr. Jekyll transforms into Mr. Hyde and has a fight scene with Tom Cruise.
That's not how it... Did they...
Yeah, I know.
Did they read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? It's about the addiction. It's about the addiction of it. He can't not become Mr. Hyde. He keeps injecting himself to become Mr. Hyde because it's an addiction. He needs to service his evil side.
Well, maybe in the Dr. Jekyll standalone movie with Russell Crowe, they'll explain that, but
which will be like Winter's Tale.
Oh, I hope so.
Oh yeah, you know what? I would say if they could bring the director back, that would I'd appreciate it.
Of Winter's Tale?
Headbutts someone in a fight.
Akiva Goldsman?
Farrell just headbutts the guy over and over again.
He needs to write and direct it, and that'll make it amazing.
I don't know if Universal is going to let Akiva Goldsman go anywhere near this for some reason.
I don't think anyone should let Akiva Goldsman go anywhere near any movie, but it happens.
Well, he's pretty much the brain. He is the head honcho now on the Transformers universe. So have fun with that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think they probably figured we can't make these any shittier than they already are. So who knows? Maybe he'll pull a miracle.
I doubt it.
Wouldn't that be a miracle though if it turns out that the new Transformers movie, under the guidance of Akiva Goldsman, is like the greatest entry in the series?
I would guess that Goldsman probably sold his soul to the devil for that to happen.
Well, I mean, You gotta make money.
Now, on the
somewhere.
other hand, he could write the next Batman and Robin in terms of Transformers, and that I would be totally happy with as well.
Batman and Transformers.
So that would be awesome.
Don't give him any ideas.
Yeah, right. Don't be listening to us, Akiva Goldsman. So the Dr. Jekyll or the Mr. Hyde fight is really funny because Russell Crowe just puts on this ridiculous Cockney accent. And he's like yelling at Tom Cruise, like, "Come on, join me. We'll be a hit with the ladies." And shit like that. So the way the movie ends is the mummy, Amunet wants to stab Cruise with a dagger and make him possessed and stuff. And then Cruise looks over and he sees that the blonde-haired female character her name is like, I can't remember. Her role in the movie was to need to get saved from time to time and also to throw out just random hot tips on Egypt and just little random pieces of expository dialogue.
Her name is Sexual McInterest.
Yes, it is. McInterest. So she's dead, and so Cruz, he's about to destroy the dagger, and Amunet's like, wait, if you destroy the dagger, then she'll be lost forever, but if you become Set, then you can bring her back to life. And so he stabs himself and becomes Set, kills the mummy by sucking the life force out through her mouth, and then resurrects the girl. But now he has like evil dark powers that make him ugly, and he's hiding in shadow, and he's like, don't look at me. And then he leaves. And at the very end, Russell Crowe is monologuing about how he might be an amazing tool with them, for them in the fight against evil.
Oh, he's an amazing tool, all right.
Like he's basically the movie turns Tom Cruise into a superhero with the powers to kill and resurrect people at his will. I think it's a really weird piece of world building that has some kind of tantalizing implications for the rest of the series.
So now Tom Cruise
see where it goes.
is
the main guy.
The mummy.
Yeah. So some of the things in the movie that are really goofy. Amunet kills people by, again, she latches onto them, sucks on their face until their entire life force gets sucked out through their mouth and they turn into zombies.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
Like that movie Life Force by Toby Hooper.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I have heard people say that Life Force was like totally ripped off for some elements of this movie, but I have not seen Life Force. I've just heard people mention it, so I do want to see it. I've heard Life Force is pretty badass.
It is Toby Hooper.
Well, and not only that, but it was Toby Hooper's like super indulgent, basically canon group said you can have all of the money to make this.
Nice.
And Jean-Luc Picard's in it.
Yeah, there you go.
What are some other things? Oh, Jake Johnson is in it. This is weird. Okay, is he? What?
The musician?
No, that's Jack Johnson.
I know. I'm just.
Johnson.
Jake Johnson is he in the first like 20 minutes of the movie, he gets bitten by a camel spider in the tomb, and then he turns into a zombie. And he just appears at random points in the movie as a zombie, as a vision to Tom Cruise to tell him stuff. It's really fucking weird. And I didn't really understand why they were doing that, but whatever. The action is really interesting. Like somebody mentioned, and I agree with this, is that this movie is kind of a deconstruction of Tom Cruise as an action hero. This review mentioned the fact that Tom Cruise is past his prime. He's in his like late 50s, early 60s now, and he is no longer an action hero. So he has to rely entirely on his charisma and his physical acting and his physical comedy to drive his character now.
Cruise
There
is
are
54.
very few. What?
Cruise is 54, so not quite late 50.
54. Okay. So there are very few scenes in this movie where he does not get his ass kicked. Like he gets tossed around a lot in this movie, and he gets thrown through sandstorms. And
please tell me that every time that happens, they throw in the sound effect of.
That actually is not in the movie at all.
They knew enough to remove that.
Yes, they did.
They were like, we should have known this was terrible to begin with. Maybe we should workshop this.
So yeah,
It's like they thought, because this is a horror movie or a horror action movie, they had to have someone screaming all the time.
That's the other problem with the movie is that it wants to be an adventure, an action, and a horror film all at the same time, but it never lets those tones cohere. So you're never really sure what you're supposed to be, if you're supposed to be laughing at the movie or enthralled by it. Like, there's no clear tonal direction for the film. But of course, with everything else piling on top of it that's so bizarre and funny, like it still makes it really entertaining. It's just, I was laughing so hard throughout the whole movie because of all this wacky shit that keeps happening. Like when they first resurrect Amunet, there's this whole pulley system for some reason. Like a pulley system, as you could imagine, would facilitate the release of the mummy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's all these levers and weights that keep the sarcophagus sealed into the hole. Tom Cruise literally like shrugs, pulls out his gun, and shoots the rope and opens up the sarcophagus.
Why not?
Yeah, there's no point to it. But his character is kind of a fucking asshole throughout most of the movie. At one point, during the plane crash, she gives the girl like a parachute, and so she can save herself. Later on, she's like, there is a selfless man in there somewhere. You gave me the only parachute for that plane crash. He's like, I thought there were two.
Oh, that's good.
There's not really much else to say. There's just a lot of really funny things, like Amunet, when she's captured by Dr. Jekyll, she starts chanting something, and a spider crawls out of the grate in the ground and crawls into a guy's ear and possesses him, so he releases her. This is I think this is a perfect example of writers that are given very little resistance by the studio. Like Alex Kurtzman wants to create a cinematic universe. Universal wants the money. They're like, you know what? Do whatever the fuck you want. And he said, yes, I fucking will. And so you have all this crazy shit in this movie.
So Variety has an article that just came out recently. It was released, let's see, what's the date here? Just today, claiming that Tom Cruise had excessive control on the set and that it completely destroyed what the movie was supposed to be. Let me read a couple excerpts here. It says here, of course it's running slow because it's trying to automatically play a Mr. Robot ad. Fuck you. All right, it says here.
Yeah, I hate that.
Mr. Robot's a great show, though.
Right, it says, in the case of the Mummy, one person, Cruise, had an excessive amount of control. According to several people interviewed, the reboot of the Mummy was supposed to be the start of a mega franchise for Universal Pictures, but instead became a textbook case of a movie star run amok. It says, as Hollywood is playing the blame game for the Mummy, which had a measly $32 million opening, fingers pointed at Cruise, and it says Cruise exerted nearly complete creative oversight on the film, essentially wearing all the hats and dictating even the smallest set decisions. He admitted his own perfectionist tendencies on stage, saying, I don't just make a movie, I give it everything I have and expect it from everyone also. According to sources familiar, Universal contractually guaranteed Cruise control of most aspects of the project, from script approval to post-production decisions, and he had input in the film's marketing and release strategy.
That sounds like Tom Cruise.
Yeah. It says here that the film actually cost as much as $190 million to make and more than $100 million to market.
Ouch, that's not good.
Yeah. Wow. A representative of Cruise didn't respond to requests, but yeah, apparently, I mean, here's the thing. This movie, the fact is, this movie's being called a train wreck by a lot of people, and if Cruise was the one who was in charge of it, then, yeah.
Interesting.
His part was apparently beefed up in the original script. There were, apparently, it says here, the Mummy and his character had equal screen time in the original script.
I wouldn't say that either one was relatively shortchanged in the final product. I mean, Tom Cruise is the main character, and Amunet is the main antagonist, so she has plenty of screen time as well.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that gets me is that this movie went through.
Oh, Cruise brought in his personal editor to edit the film too.
Oh,
who's his personal editor?
A guy, an editor named Andrew Monshine.
Huh. Might as well call him Andrew Moonshine for how chaotic the editing was in this movie. This movie went through several different people for the script. It's David Coep, Christopher McQuarrie, and like 4 or 5 other people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and that kind of lends to the tone deafness of the script and the idea that or the fact that it has no idea where it wants to go. And it's kind of overstuffed. And again, tries to get way too much done in a single movie when it should just be focusing on its own adventure. So instead of kind of enjoying what's at hand, every moment is like, okay, what's gonna be next? It's what's coming up. There's rarely any in the moment meat to it.
Apparently, the original screenplay described Cruise's character as a young man.
Well, they did use digital effects to kind of de-age him a little bit.
That's just getting gross.
It's not noticeable. You just can't see his wrinkles. He looks maybe 6 years younger than he should be.
That's, to me, that's shameful. That's showing a high amount of vanity.
Well, that's not really vanity. It's the fans. The fans expect the stars to look this good, so they, the moment Cruise starts looking old and feeling old, that's when his movies start, having problems with viewership.
I wouldn't mind seeing an aging Cruise take different kinds of roles.
That's just not his fan base, though. It's kind of like it's like
I consider myself a fan enough of Tom Cruise that I could legitimately say I'm a member of his fan base. I like most of the movies that he's made in his career.
So do I. But we're just not what this is. We're not who Cruise is targeted at. He's targeted at young teenage girls that love Tom Cruise and never.
And there are no young teenage girls who love Tom Cruise anymore, and it hasn't been that way for years.
There are also no young teenage girls who would like The Mummy. I don't think. No. In fact, it's just not a movie for teenage girls. This is a kind of a. I don't know who this movie is for. I guess it's a movie for me.
Oh God!
Actually,
has everyone here seen the original Mummy with Boris Karloff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have.
That is a slow-moving, contemplative, brooding horror movie, and it has not even a hint of action element within it.
Right.
And so turning it into an action movie is an absurdity to begin with.
Well, the 99 film did it right, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that's as close as you're going to get, because it gave it an Indiana Jones-like kind of globe-trotting adventure thing. That's, if you're going to hit it from an action perspective, that's what you do.
Stephen Sommers knew what he was doing when he made the 99 Mummy, and to a certain extent, The Mummy Returns.
I'm not going to say I think the Mummy is not a very good movie, but it at least it knows what it is, I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am a librarian.
The librarian.
The new Mummy movie kind of knows what it is, but it has several different identities. If that makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
It knows that it's different things by turns at different points in the film, and never comes together as a real piece of complete cinematic fucking whatever. I don't know, but that's the thing, is that
cinematic fucking whatever. That's the name of my new website.
That's a quote for the quote for the DVD box. It's a piece of cinematic fucking whatever.
It's better than Hollywood Elsewhere.
That's stupid.
You guys don't know what that is? Yeah, that's an actual website by
I know about it.
More like Hollywood Nowhere.
Yeah,
or Hollywood Everywhere.
In fact, let's see if that's a thing.
Hollywood Nowhere.
I guarantee that's someone's blog.
Oh, I guarantee you that's somebody's blog.
Yeah, but so ultimately, The Mummy just kind of failed to impress. But
I was impressed for not the reasons they wanted me to be impressed, though.
Okay.
I'll be really bold and come right out and say it, is that this is one of those so bad it's good movies that when I was watching it, I was thinking this was made for me. This is the kind of movie that I just love. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's a different type of entertainment, but I don't think I've been this entertained by a movie in the theaters since Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Well, Russell Crowe was in it, so you might say, are you not entertained?
I was entertained.
Yeah. But are you not entertained?
Oh, I'm entertained.
I am. Yeah.
I'm entertained. Yes, definitely go see it. It's really bad, but it's so fucking stupid and fun.
It's so bad.
It's really bad.
I love the
But
power.
God damn it, I loved it.
All right. Well then, in that case, we'll move on to the next movie that I would actually say fits into a very similar category of it's so bad,
It's so good.
and that would be the latest entry from filmmaker Walter Hill, The
God.
Assignment,
Yeah.
starring Michelle Rodriguez, Tony Shalhoub, Sigourney Weaver.
In 2 roles.
So I'll go ahead and accept full responsibility for this movie happening. I mean, at least to us.
Okay.
I've been following this movie for a long time. At first I heard of it, I was like, oh, Michelle Rodriguez is a hitman, gets turned into a girl. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Because that sounds fucking terrible.
To which I would say, she's already a girl. What's the deal?
Yeah, right.
And then you hear the details and you're like, oh.
So I was just, I was getting groceries, and then I decided to browse Redbox, see what's happening, and see what's come out recently that I maybe didn't get to see, like maybe The Great Wall or something, because I'm in the mood for a bad movie. And then I saw right there The Assignment, and I was like, is that the one that I'm looking for? And I clicked on it, and it said directed by Walter Hill, starring Michelle Rodriguez. Yes, it's the one. I'm renting it right now. I'm keeping it for an extra day so I can make sure I have enough time to watch it. I didn't even plan on watching it that night. I was like, I'm going to rent this right now so I can have it and claim it.
You even texted me because I think you were trying to figure out whether it was cheaper to rent it there or cheaper to do online.
Right. And you confirmed that it's a little bit more expensive to rent it on Amazon. So I got the DVD from Redbox. This movie is about a hitman played by Michelle Rodriguez and
named Frank Kitchen.
Frank Kitchen. Hitman is the operative word here because Michelle Rodriguez is playing a dude in this first part of the movie with a just absurd fake beard and some, in one sex scene, very conspicuously fake chest hair. It's apparently
a penis too.
But you said what?
A penis too.
I was about to ask that, and because I didn't notice it, but apparently Michelle Rodriguez insisted that she be more well endowed than any other male on the set. She's like, if you're gonna give me a fake dick, make it a fucking big fake dick.
Believe me, they gave her one, and they show it.
Damn it, I missed it. Why am I so disappointed at not seeing Michelle Rodriguez's fake dick?
That's the name of my next blog, by the way.
Michelle Rodriguez's fake dick.
Fake dick. Okay, or being disappointed that you didn't see it.
It's actually going to be a riff on Hawk Ripjaw's
people that don't look like Walton Goggins.
Exactly. Instead, it's people that don't look like Michelle Rodriguez's fake dick.
Or on-screen dicks that don't look like Michelle Rodriguez's fake dick. So you get like all the times there's been male nudity in a film. So
like Kevin Bacon in Wild Things.
Kevin Bacon in Wild Things. Michael Fassbender in Shame. Jason Segel in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Did you say Seagal?
Yeah, that's how I say it.
Seagal? Is it Seagal?
I like saying Seagal because that, like in my world, that means that Steven Seagal is related to Jason Segel.
Oh, okay.
I know they're not, but I kind of like the idea, and I want them to star together in a father-son action buddy comedy.
You have a point there, and whether it's accurate or not, I will buy it for $1.
Okay. So the hitman Frank Kitchen kills on a mark, this guy who turns out to be the brother of a famous and brilliant surgeon played by Sigourney Weaver. As revenge, go ahead.
I was going to say the framing device of this movie is the doctor played by Sigourney Weaver is being interviewed by another doctor in a psych ward,
played by Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah. So that's the framing device of the story. That's the present.
Yeah. So as revenge for her brother getting killed, Sigourney Weaver captures Frank Kitchen and gives him forced gender reassignment surgery to turn him into Frank the girl. By shaving her beard and her chest and doing other things. And that's the movie because now Frank is really pissed off and wants revenge on Sigourney Weaver for turning him into a girl.
Now, what were Sigourney's reasons for why didn't she just kill him?
Because then you wouldn't have a very interesting movie.
Well, the explanation that she gives is she wanted to cause a deeper level of suffering, a psychological suffering, something that was.
Yeah.
Not only that, but try to eradicate her masculine sense of violence.
Mm-hmm. Or partially as an experiment to find out if that was possible to do.
Right. Which is weird because after she changes Frank to being a female, she leaves her with a lot of money and a hotel room. Like she's like, here's your new life. It wasn't like you're a girl now and you're fucking homeless and get out. You're gonna die out there. But no, she facilitates a new life for Frank, which I thought was really weird.
Which Frank proceeds to use for revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure.
I mean, if I had surgery forced upon me, I'd probably want revenge too.
Yeah, pretty much anyone would. I would assume,
or at least pull a lawsuit or something. Yeah,
a lawsuit. Frank versus
Frank Kitchen versus. I'd be snickering too. I'd be like, your last name is Kitchen, like the place I go to make my food.
Oh, I knew somebody whose last name was Kitchen.
Yeah,
I know, but.
One of the most famous British generals of all time was General Kitchener. So
the meta reasoning for that name is that Frank Kitchen is not a real name. It's right,
is an
alias.
Couldn't they have said Frank? Couldn't they have said Frank Johnson? In reference to his reference to his penis.
I feel like there's a better name the better first name, so you can imply that there's no penis. Like
Helen Johnson.
Like Joe Penis. Like Joe Penis is gone. Or Joe Johnson.
Joe Penis is gone. Joe Penis is gone.
Joe Penis. Joe Penis is not here anymore.
Which can also be right. I got you. All right.
But then I saw Joe Johnson. Isn't that like that's a director, right? That's the guy that did Captain America and the Rocketeer.
I had a friend in high school who had a local band called Dick Cock and the Fathers of Destruction, and he was Dick Cock.
Nice.
So they should have just been that overt.
Dick Cock. Well, they might as well have been. This whole movie was
kind of on the nose.
It can't be said that the assignment is not provocative and bold. Walter Hill takes a lot of chances here.
He does.
And you can't nail him for not doing that.
It's very daring, and at certain points in the film, you can tell that it is very carefully staying out of the argument for gender reassignment.
I cannot help but admire Walter Hill, regardless of because his last few movies have not impressed me all that much, but almost without exception, every movie that he's made has at least had some deeply interesting concept behind it, whether it succeeds or fails. And he's a director whose movies often pivot on a dime between just being absolutely amazing and brutally terrible. I mean, The Warriors is a perfect example. The Warriors is a classic movie, but there is so much in that movie that threatens to spin off the rails at any moment. The fact that it doesn't is what makes that movie so great. He managed that balance. And I think he relies on such a challenging balance in his filmmaking technique that his movies, as a result, are almost without exception, his movies are either really, really interesting and really amazing in their own ways, or just complete train wrecks.
Right. And where would you say this one lands?
Oh, it's a train wreck.
But in the best way, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Everything about this movie was just so fascinating.
Well, that's what I was saying when I was watching it. You told me this thing about Walter Hill, and you're like, so does it work? I was like, it kind of works.
Yeah.
And would you agree?
Well, it works in a ridiculous way. Mm-hmm. It's like Walter Hill also, another example of one of his train wreck movies is his 1995 Western, Wild Bill, that attempts to be a biopic of Wild Bill Hickok. Mm-hmm. It is one of the worst biopics I've ever seen. It's completely awful. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. And it's the movie's only like 98 minutes long, and it tries to tell a story that really should have been like an epic. I mean, the story of Wild Bill Hickok is a complicated story, and the fact that it's just it takes you on a rocket sled through history, basically.
Mhm.
And he does that. Another classic train wreck of his, if you're looking for bad movies, is the Schwarzenegger Jim Belushi movie Red Heat.
That sounds awesome.
Oh, it's the plot of Red Heat. It's a buddy cop action film in which basically what happens is Jim Belushi is a Chicago detective, and Schwarzenegger is a Soviet police officer who comes to America as part of some sort of a deal to try to hunt down this international criminal. So the American and the Russian team up against crime.
That sounds fucking awesome.
If you've
Which
never
one is
seen
Russian?
it, oh well,
Schwarzenegger.
yeah. What do you think? Jim Belushi is going to affect a Russian accent?
Oh, I would pay good money to see
Jim
that.
Belushi is the prototypical sloppy American.
Oh yeah, I would say that.
So wouldn't it be great if he was just this fucking shit ass Russian, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger is the straight man, as the American?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am the American, and then Jim Belushi is trying to do his Russian accent.
Or if
Exactly.
if you want another example of Walter Hill at his, here's a movie that teeters so much on failure that this movie, I'm not even sure if I can call this movie a failure or a success, because it's so. Have either of you seen Streets of Fire?
I don't think so.
No, I haven't, but my dad talks about it a lot.
Holy shit, Streets of Fire is amazing. In fact, actually, I'm going to say, Hawk, we're going to go on a tour through Walter Hill with my suggestions. Streets of Fire is my next recommendation, and you are going to watch it. And you're going to love it. Back to front.
I think it just recently had a remastering.
I think it did, and for your own information, if you don't know about Streets of Fire, Streets of Fire is billed as a rock and roll fable, and it's a mix of music. It's part musical, part action film, part sci-fi futuristic dystopia, and also a comedy.
I don't think I'm going to read anything about this movie before I watch it.
Yeah, and Willem Dafoe wears a garbage bag.
So you got me sold.
Yeah, it's like, you have my attention. Also, you get Bill Paxton, you get Rick Moranis. It's all over the fucking place.
So, do we have any closing thoughts
assignment.
on the assignment? We've said a lot about it, but we haven't said much about it at the same time.
This movie is indeed a train wreck, like Ken is saying, in the best possible way. Though it's very confusing. This movie reminds me a lot of Kurt Wimmer's Ultraviolet.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Remember Ultraviolet, that movie with Mila Jovovich? It was that movie was insane and bad at the same time, but it was so memorable. You couldn't forget what you just saw because it was so ridiculous and over the top.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of that movie for a couple reasons. One in particular was how in the assignment they use a lot of graphic novel over live action for transitions. Almost like they're trying to make this seem like it's Ang Lee's Hulk.
Right.
It's got a lot of that kind of editing and transition work, which Ultraviolet also has, despite Ultraviolet not being based on a comic book, nor is the assignment. I don't know what exactly Walter Hill's going for in this movie, book nature or even the sex assignment nature, other than provocation. It succeeds in the provocation, but if that's all it is, I mean, you're just trying to get my attention and titillate me, then I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird. It also doesn't really sexualize Michelle Rodriguez.
It doesn't really, no.
I will for my summary of it, I think I've already pretty much summarized my feelings, but I will say, casting Michelle Rodriguez to play a man turned into a woman is one of the most I would say, terrible casting decisions that I can think of in recent history. And I recently watched a movie a few weeks ago in which a woman won an Academy Award for playing a man. The Year of Living Dangerously, the Peter Weir movie, where Linda Hunt plays a character named Billy Kwan. And her performance is a textbook example of how you cast a female to play a male character. First of all, you need a much stronger actor. That's your first challenge. You also need a woman who, and this is not an insult towards Linda Hunt at all, because I think everyone's beautiful in their own way, but she does embody traits that could easily be molded into a more masculine form, and she's a
little bit more androgynous, is what you're saying.
Yes, and that's, like I said, that's not meant as an insult. It's just the fact that if you're trying to make it something convincing, you have to do that. And she's a strong enough actress, and she's just blessed with just the right build that they were capable of pulling it off for that film, and not just pulling it off, but making it a believable and really amazing performance. Michelle Rodriguez is just not equipped to do that. Even if she was a great actress, it would be a challenge because she's just too feminine in the way she's designed. I'm being honest here. You have to. If you're trying to make a movie believable, and a movie like this, yes, it's over the top, yes, it's ridiculous by its nature, but there has to be some suspension of disbelief. And instead, it just comes off like a cartoon, especially in the scene where she's got that comical body hair that is just.
Yes. It's the beard that does it for me. It's so off-putting. She's not even really an attraction way. It totally takes me out of movies. Like that is not Michelle Rodriguez playing a male. That is Michelle Rodriguez with hair glued to her face.
I almost get the feeling that Walter Hill had no idea what she looked like before she came onto the set. And then she came onto the set, and the first thing he said was, okay, well, let's see. Her contract's already been signed. We can't fire her. So what we'll do is just, all right, it's like, costume department, how much fake body hair do you have laying around? And then the makeup department comes in and says, we need more glue. We need more glue.
No, I think that he was actually involved in her casting. Like, he wanted her.
Why? I mean,
because she's good at playing a badass.
Yeah, if you're going to get her to play the badass, the female portion, why not hire an actor like a male that looks like he could be her brother?
Yeah, or that would work.
You know what I mean?
You could do that, or as I said, find a female who has a more androgynous form. I mean, or actually, you could have done the other way. You could have had a male play a female.
Yeah, but I think that would kind of muddle the gender politics of being reassigned.
For me, it doesn't matter. The point is, the movie. If you're taking this movie on its own terms, you've got to have something that can be convincing on both sides of the coin. And the problem is they did not cast someone who could. So,
yeah.
So that's my summary there.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
I could go into more discussion about Sigourney Weaver and how she reads a lot of overblown dialogue.
Oh, she's so great.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver.
She's great, but her dialogue is horrible.
You can tell that she is just making she is picking pieces of the scenery out of her teeth in this movie.
Yeah, she pulled a Michael Sheen on this. She knew that this material needed a completely over the top performance. It feels like Hill wanted her character to be like a Hannibal Lecter, and it's just I just heard message.
Didn't get that, yeah.
Yeah, Hawk, is that your ringtone? The message?
Yeah, sorry, I thought my phone was silence.
It was from Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. Message.
Yeah. I still got to change that. My next text tone is going to be the Rick and Morty Mr. Poopy Butthole. Ooh wee.
That's a good one. All right. Actually, you know what? I have one more thing to say about The Assignment, and this is just a complete aside. I watched another Walter Hill movie this morning, Hard Times. It was actually Hill's first directorial feature. With James Coburn and Charles Bronson.
Is that the one they remade into a Christian Bale movie?
Did they?
Yeah, Christian Bale was in a movie called Hard Times, but I don't know if that was a remake or if that was just using the title.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I do know that the movie it's from 1975. I don't know if it was remade, but it's about bare knuckle boxing in New Orleans, actually.
It's all right.
The Christian Bale movie was Harsh Times.
Ah, okay. Well, if you've ever seen, have you ever seen The Cincinnati Kid?
No.
Well,
I haven't. No.
Okay, Bill A. The Cincinnati Kid stars Steve McQueen, and it's a game about basically gambling, and it's a game about basically gambling, and it's also set in New Orleans. And the cinematographer is the same in both films, and it has. This guy is a genius at filming New Orleans. Really, it's Hard Times is really cool. Basically, it's about bare knuckle boxing, and it's a pretty standard story. McQueen is hard on his luck. He's looking for money, and he runs into this eccentric, talkative promoter played by Coburn, and the two of them conspire to set up boxing matches, and using Bronson's age as a way of fooling people into thinking he's a boxer who's past his prime. And you've never seen Charles Bronson look more fucking muscular. He's stacked in this freaking movie. It's crazy. He clearly put the work in. And the reason I bring this up in reference to The Assignment is The Assignment featured random Edgar Allan Poe reference. A few of them.
Oh yeah. Nevermore, that kind of shit. Yeah.
And Hard Times has a character in it named Poe, played by Strother Martin, who claims to be he claims to be a descendant of Poe. He's actually has a fondness for opium, and there's a scene where he's quoting Poe. So clearly, this is a Walter Hill theme. This is something that comes up.
I just love how Sigourney Weaver's character had pictures of a bearded Frank pre-op with the words "Nevermore, Nevermore" written next to it.
Yeah,
it's such a fucking dumbass flourish. Like, that was so stupid.
It works way better in Hard Times, and so I recommend you check it out if you're looking for a good old fashioned like fighting movie. It's this movie will scratch that itch real well. But yeah, The Assignment and Hard Times both reference Poe, so that's a weird mix. Speaking of a weird mix, The Last Dragon.
Yeah, this is one that you recommended to me.
Yes.
To leapfrog off the headshot conversation.
Right.
Because your trend has been to kind of when I recommend something, you recommend something back the next week that kind of is in that same wheelhouse.
It has some sort of thematic similarity. In this case, both films are martial arts films. And in this case, though, The Last Dragon is a martial arts comedy that parodies classical martial arts films. And it was produced by Berry Gordy, who is a famous Motown producer, and features a lot of then very popular 80s pop music in it. Apparently this movie was basically it was spirited by Berry Gordy. It was really like a passion project of his.
Mm-hmm.
And The Last Dragon, what's fascinating about the movie to me is how it tries to be so many things at the same time. And it mostly succeeds. And it's that is fascinating. It has a really creative and humorous sensibility to it, in that it's, you have Bruce Leroy taking on the Shogun of Harlem, Show Nuff. And so there's a great blaxploitation parody reference in there. This is a great movie to watch alongside I'm Gonna Get You, Sucka.
Mm-hmm. And Black Dynamite to an extent.
Sure, yeah, Black Dynamite you could do too.
Although I think Black Dynamite is a slightly different flavor of blaxploitation spoof than this is.
Right. This is the parodies from like the 70s and 80s had a inherently a different kind of flow to them than more modern parodies.
Yeah, this kind of went more after the motifs of that era rather than the motifs. In addition, Black Dynamite is more about racial politics and the low quality of cinematic. What's the word I'm looking for? Low quality of cinematic effort. Mm-hmm. or skill of that era. Like, it was just, there were things that were intentionally shitty in that movie.
Right. Versus The Last Dragon doesn't parody like the quality of those films. It actually pays tribute to classic exploitation films, classic kung fu movies. And in fact, in numerous times throughout the film, there are several sequences that take place in a movie theater while a Bruce Lee movie is playing.
And it's really not a badly made film either. I thought the fight choreography was fine.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And the other things worth noting is just the weird subplot involving the manager trying to promote his vapid girlfriend, who's basically a total ripoff of crap. The name is evading me now.
From where?
The girl with the high-pitched voice.
Lucille Ball?
That's in this movie.
I don't know who she's making fun of, but...
yeah, she what? God damn it. Famous 80s icon. All right, well, no one's helping me on this, so I'll just have to eat that. But I'm sure someone will remind me. But... and of course, I think the film also has a lot of it really is a movie steeped within the 80s because of the soundtrack that was given to it by Berry Gordy. The music is all just for its time, just it just oozes its time period.
Right.
This is a movie that could never have been made at another time in another era. You cannot call this movie timeless, but very timely for sure.
Yeah, you could say that.
Does anyone else have any comments about the movie? Any personal observations?
No, not really. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I don't know. It's I didn't love it, I guess. It's just, but I thought it was entertaining.
Well, one thing I've heard someone say about this movie, and I think it's for me, I have a personal love of it. Maybe it's just the nostalgia, but someone I heard called this movie a solid 3-star movie.
Yeah, I would accept that.
As in it's not quite great, but it really delivers in as a solid watchable movie. So
yeah, that's fair.
All right. So with that, it looks like Bill Arsenault's dropped off.
Yeah.
But we'll continue. We have a couple other movies to cover here. Gentlemen Broncos, which is your most recent recommendation for me.
Yes. This is the newest. Well, I shouldn't say newest. It is a film from Jared Hess, who wrote and directed also Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite.
Alongside his more recent films, Don Verdeen and Masterminds, which he did not write, but he did direct.
Correct. And like I was telling you last night, is Masterminds I don't really consider a Jared Hess film because it's such a different style of movie. It just doesn't his really insane quirkiness is not quite. It feels consistently hamstrung by the script.
Is there a mercenary quality to it where it feels like he did the movie because he wanted to get some extra money so he could fund something else?
I wouldn't say that. Like it's done with his heart is in it. It's just you can tell which of the pieces of the film came right from Hess and which didn't.
Ah, okay.
It's still worth seeing because there is a zany quality to the cinematography and the direction that's really great. That just the script doesn't always support. his wife is played by Kate McKinnon. Zach Galifianakis' wife in the movie is played by Kate McKinnon.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a really bizarre sequence where they're taking these very creepy wedding photos. And at one point, he's laying on the ground and on his stomach, and then she is sitting on his backside.
Mm-hmm.
So their butts are touching, and then she farts. And she's like, "You farted right in my butthole," and stuff like, or something like that. Like, there are some really great Hess moments that the rest of the movie doesn't really have a consistent through line with.
Now, Gentlemen Broncos, on the other hand, what it felt like to me when I saw it, because I saw it for the first time just last night, and
Right.
it felt like between Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite, it felt like a highly distilled, just a highly distilled cocktail containing the most eccentric elements of those films,
Yes.
all blended together and shoved into one story. The story itself is incredibly basic, just about a homeschooled kid who finds himself at a crossroads creatively when his story is stolen by a famous author on one side, and on the other side, effectively stolen by a couple of fellow up and coming writers who decide to make a movie out of his material.
Right.
And he finds himself kind of distraught because he's having to deal with the fact that his story is no longer in his hands, and he can't do anything about it. This film plays out with numerous flashes to basically filmed creations of how his story is represented as he writes it, with Sam Rockwell playing the lead of his book.
You took my ads, Dennis.
Now, first of all, I'm going to say that there's nothing that Sam Rockwell touches that does not turn to sheer gold. And all of those sequences within the story within the story, which, by the way, the story within the story is called Yeast Wars, if I remember right. Yeast Lords, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And Yeast Lords, it might be the strangest science fiction story I've ever heard, and yet it feels painstakingly chosen to parody the more eccentric. If you've ever been to the sci-fi section of a bookstore, you will see those cheap-ass penny novels that that maybe 5 people have purchased and have been sitting on that shelf for ages, with just the weirdest covers and concepts that just let's just say they fulfill an incredibly niche field, and in many ways your suspicion is a fetish.
Yeah.
And that which says a lot about the character in this film, Ronald Chevalier, who is played by Jermaine Clement. Chevalier has a series of novels, and if you look at the covers of them, all of them involve women with things shooting out of their boobs.
Yeah, and at one point they're called what, mammary cannons?
Yes.
I wanted to point out too, while we're on it, Sam Rockwell, he plays the character in he plays the character of Bronco in the original version of the main character's script, and then he also plays a significantly more flamboyant character in the revised version that is stolen from the main character.
Mm-hmm.
So just I wanted to call out his great versatility between the two characters. They're both the same character, but one is like very like long haired and butch and like powerful and angry, and the other one is very like
very effete.
Very, very effete, and surveillance those. I hate those when he's talking about deer that have telescopes for eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of my favorite segments, were the parts that cut away into the actual narrative of the novel, because they were just so weird. Like there was the surveillance does, there was the battle stags, which are basically elk with rocket launchers in their antlers. There's such a unique sense of bold weirdness. This movie. You said this is more weird than Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite. This feels like the film that Hess, kind of like The Mummy with Alex Kurtzman. This is the movie that Hess was given very little resistance on. He was allowed to make the movie he wanted to make. In this case, for better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a movie where he clearly had carte blanche. There was no one telling him he can't do this or that. They gave him they signed over a check for $10 million because that's what the budget's listed is here, and they said, "Do what you do,
go wild."
And he did, and as a result, his last movie, Don Verdean, barely got a release because Gentlemen Broncos, to put it mildly, bombed both critically and commercially. It made of its $10 million, it apparently brought in $118,000.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think that if promoted correctly, this movie could have been at least a mild cult success. What's that?
How would you have marketed it?
I mean, I think it's a challenge to market it. Maybe emphasizing the dual stories, both the weird, because the trailers for this never went into the Sam Rockwell segments, and I think giving a little bit of the Sam Rockwell humor into the trailer, injecting a little bit of that, would have ignited kind of, at the very least, some raising of eyebrows amongst the audience. And I think also the movie really didn't get much of promotion. I mean, the trailers played, I remember, for a while, and then after the critics got a hold of it, they just basically pulled the plug on its national release. It did not play anywhere in my area at all. I
don't think it played near me either.
Yeah, and so they, had they given some more thought to that, I've noticed that critics tend to like, because Napoleon Dynamite, Nacho Libre, and Gentlemen Broncos all got effectively negative reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm pretty sure Napoleon Dynamite had like a 50 in the 50s, and I think it's because Jared Hess's style. It's kind of misunderstood. Every review that I've read that's negative seems to think that he's making fun of his characters and that he doesn't have a love for them. Like in Napoleon Dynamite, they say that he's making fun of rural Idaho and Utah, Mormons or something. And I read a review of Gentlemen Broncos that was saying the same thing, that was saying that he's doing that. Now, first of all, Hess is himself a Mormon, and actually he apparently gave a ton of his profits from Dynamite to the Church of Latter-day Saints, which I found interesting. So he's clearly not like making fun of. He has a love for these characters, and it's not unlike that of like Wes Anderson, where he's just created this oddball universe of characters who there's this weird stuck in the 70s/80s what do you call it? It's as if they while the world has moved on without his characters, and as a result, his characters have started to lose their grip on reality. And I think that actually that kind of explains it a lot. Now, this movie, I do have a few criticisms. I think the movie does push the weirdness level to such an extreme that I found it sometimes hard to watch. The character who plays Lonnie, the filmmaker, played by Hector Jimenez, I think was given too much direction to pull like stink faces.
I think that was his default look, though.
I guarantee he does not actually pull those just gross stink faces the whole time. In fact, actually looking at pictures of him in other... No, he was clearly forcing his face into just a grotesque, twisted...
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the character's default look.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I know that's what the character's designed as, but I think it was pushed to such an extreme that uh, it became almost some sort of uh, almost like a stereotype of a character that like of a non-existent stereotype. It's like creating a stereotype. I don't know. It's hard to explain where I'm coming from on this, but some of the characters, just their eccentricities are pushed to an extreme that starts to wear away at the story's believability. I actually was. It's interesting. The one character who completely turned around on me, Mike White, when he appears as Dusty, the kind of brain dead would-be love interest of the main character's mother.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I think he was going the same direction, but he gets this great empathetic twist towards the end.
Yeah,
that I was not expecting, and it actually renewed my my interest in the character. I was glad to see that happen.
it's true though what you say about the movie being really weird, but again, that's kind of that's what I kind of dug about it, like the part where the girl, the love interest of the main character, or would-be love interest, but not really, asks the main character and then the Hector character to rub lotion on her hands.
Yeah.
So she's in between the two of them, and she's got lotion on her hands, and then they both start rubbing her hands, and then Hector leans in and just goes like, ugh, into her ear, like over and over again to relax her.
Yeah.
That's one of the funniest parts in the whole movie for me, but it's so fucking weird.
There's almost a John Waters quality to some of the grotesque elements in this. Like when he vomits into a garbage can and the girl walks out and just immediately kisses him.
Yeah.
And you can see like a ball of gross like vomit sticking to her face.
Yeah, she gets some of it on her.
She does not even think about rubbing it off. And you just look at it and say, girl, get a tissue, please.
Yeah. It's
a weird movie, and I, honestly, I would not blame anyone who saw this movie and just said this is terrible, because I think that it's going to appeal to a very specific group.
Totally.
So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and end the pubcast at that. We've already we've covered a lot of subjects. There's another movie I could have talked about, but I'll save for next week. Because I think
next week does not have much. It's 47 meters down. All Eyes on Me. Cars 3, and
Rough Night.
Rough Night. That's right.
What the fuck is that? Is that the?
It's a new movie with Scarlett Johansson and Kate McKinnon and a couple of other women, and it's a girl party movie.
Oh, okay. Well, what is the deal with that? I mean, if you're trying to make empowerment movies, like they're all these all of these movies that are like girl party movies, are just like a female version of already existing like male-oriented movies, and why not try to make just something unique? And I don't know.
Well, the party movie is a very, very marketable and bankable subgenre, and so they're trying to appeal to the other probably more than 50% at this point of the population of the world
who want their own party movie. Yeah, it just seems like to me, something that's more empowering is coming up with something unique and creative, as opposed to just repeating something that's already been done before, but with women this time.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I understand what you're saying, but that's not what makes the money, unfortunately. I mean,
that's true.
Original films don't make money. Original concepts don't make money. It's sequels.
Then again, Ghostbusters didn't make money last year.
Well, that's because apparently Paul Feig was spent a ton of money on reshoots, like $40 million to $90 million on reshoots.
I actually was reading an article that the studio apparently responded to that comment, and actually apparently that's not true. Apparently the reshoots really cost like $3 or $4 million, not 30 or 40.
But why would Dan Aykroyd say that?
Well, Dan Aykroyd has actually recently corrected himself, and he didn't straight up apologize, but he kind of did a non-apology apology.
Huh.
Yeah, if you look it up, he made a comment on that. It happened within just the last day or so. So if you haven't seen it yet, he corrected himself but he didn't even correct himself. He just said, "Well, what I was really trying to say was just that I felt like we needed more creative control."
That sounds totally incongruous with what he was saying earlier.
Yeah, but that's pretty much what he ended up doing. Like when someone pointed out yeah. But either way, it doesn't matter. The fact is, the Ghostbusters movie last year was a garbage fire, and
I wouldn't go that far, but
no, I would. It's the more I think about the movie, the more I realize how wrong-headed it was.
I won't ever see it again, but I didn't really have any major problems with it when I saw it. I kind of respect the fact that they wanted to make a female Ghostbusters, but it definitely could have gone better than it did.
It tried to do Ghostbusters by getting rid of everything that made Ghostbusters interesting and leaving in just the very basic, like it you know what it did? It threw out the substance and kept the set dressing.
Yeah. I think it was really kind of held back by the fact that it was PG-13.
I wouldn't even I wouldn't even go there. I think it was held back by the fact that that Ghostbusters is a comedy that is very much of its time, of the 80s, and they tried to inject in it a new style of comedy that is incongruous with the kind of movie that Ghostbusters was.
That's true too, yeah.
Because the whole improvisational type of comedy where it's like we're going to do like 50 takes and we'll just choose whatever take got the best laugh, as opposed to focusing on using the take that paid the most attention to the performance and the story. And because Ghostbusters is not a laugh a minute movie. It's a movie that has some really nice laughs in it and a compelling, like, sort of, a compelling ghost story in it.
That's true, yeah.
Anyway, so rather than going into a rant here, we'll just close up the episode by saying we'll see you next week, and we'll have more. We'll focus on streaming suggestions next week, because I don't know if any of us really. I mean, maybe someone will see All Eyes on Me. No one here wants to fucking see Cars 3.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah.
Although there is somebody had a fun. I know this isn't true, but somebody had a fun theory that the marketing for Cars 3, and of course the main plot of Lightning McQueen crashing and having to rehabilitate himself is an allegory for Pixar coming back from the disaster that was Cars 2.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so they've crashed, they've been shamed. Now they've got to come back and show them that they are their old self and they can be good again.
Or the vastly mediocre, the vastly mediocre film that was Finding Dory.
Yeah, I didn't like that movie either. I don't know.
Yeah, Finding Dory.
Pixar has not been good for a while. Let's just say that.
Well, and I don't. That's the thing. I can't even say that because Inside Out was really good.
I didn't love Inside Out. I thought it was fine.
I thought The Good Dinosaur was good.
Yeah, that one was pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed The Good Dinosaur. I did.
But it wasn't Wall-E. It wasn't The Incredibles. It wasn't Toy Story 3.
I think Pixar just what they need to do is they need to take a page from their own history and realize that what their original projects are what makes them fascinating. Coming up with something unique to do. The sequels, sure, they may make you more money in your is selling toys, but if you're trying to make something that's actually artful and interesting, that's why I'm actually very much looking forward to Coco.
Yeah, Coco looks awesome. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, because it's a project that's been around for a long time, and I think I even mentioned this at the time that when that other movie that had Day of the Dead elements came out. What was that?
Book of Life.
Yeah, Book of Life. Book of Life was actually announced originally around the same time as Pixar announced. It was called Unnamed Day of the Dead Project. And both movies were announced at the same time. And Coco was delayed many times because of other projects being prioritized. But the idea of but Book of Life was a movie that was severely flawed in that it felt like there was a really good story that was hidden in some very unfortunate clashes between, actual cool, like, Day of the Dead, like Mexican mythology, and modern, like, DreamWorks style bullshit.
Well, and it was also kind of held back by the fact that it was a kid's film. If they had like let it be a little more mature, like maybe on a Spirited Away level, then it would have been a lot more interesting.
Yeah, it really could. And this movie seems like it's going to go somewhere a little bit more adventurous.
Yes.
And plus, I love the cast. I mean, you've got Gael Garcia Bernal, Edward James Olmos, Sofia Espinosa. Yeah, I mean, all of those. And of course, yes, because it's a movie, an animated film involving Mexican characters, yes, Cheech Marin has a voice role in the movie.
Of course.
and of course, it being Pixar, presumably John Ratzenberger will show up somewhere.
Yeah, probably. I mean, so I guess I am excited for Incredibles 2. Like, I'm not against Pixar sequels, but it's just something that has changed in the way Pixar tells their stories, in that all of the movies that they've done really recently, or at least the ones in the immediate future, barring Coco and Incredibles 2, they're all about giving a message to kids. Like, yo, you're special, shit like that you can get from a fucking 30-minute VHS from the church library. Whereas something like Wall-E had an incredibly nuanced message, but a really, really compelling story at the same time.
And the reason why I still maintain Ratatouille is my favorite is because it's not a film that necessarily has a message aimed at kids. The message of the movie is, if you are a critic, lighten up. It really, the message of the movie is, people have a passion for things, and not everything is high art. And sometimes something that you might consider to be consider to be a low art can actually be very beautiful. And that's the awesome finale of the film, is where this completely hard-ass food critic who wants everything to be absolutely perfect, is blown away when the chef dares to serve him a simple country dish, which ratatouille in France is like a very basic kind of, like, it's kind of considered like poor people's food. And because the chef dared to serve him just a very good version of a food that, as a child, he may have been served by his mom when she was, when she didn't have that much money. It blew him away, and it's the simplicity of it. And sometimes simple things can be appreciated as well as something that is more elaborate.
And that's why I love bad movies.
Exactly, and that's why we're watching Streets of Fire next week.
And that's why I am on viewing 18 of Cat in the Hat.
Oh gosh, we're getting there.
It's coming, my friend.
I
need to update my column for that. I don't think I need to kind of reapproach my my Shat in the Hat column, because I think the inaugural column got like 12 views or something like that. Not very many people looked at it.
Well, either way, I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on Streets of Fire. So I will see you next week, sir.
All right, see ya.
Bye.